see if we are up and running. We're going to do some artwork this morning. Just waiting for the signal to come through here. Then I'm up and at 'em. There we are. Muddy Mabar Pathways. Perfect. And volume sounds okay. Mic check, mic check. 1, 2, 3. Volume sounds okay. My volume sounds great. Okay, cool. So there we go. I'm going to get up and running here in a hot second. Just punching some social media stuff right quick, and I will hop into this. So my name is Phil Kearney. Hey, I create role-playing games. I illustrate them. I publish online. And we are working on the... hold on real quick. Hot second. Hey, Rel, what's going on? Let's see. Chump, 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 chump. That's all good. Okay, cool. So yeah, we're making Crystals of Mabar. This is an adventure for 4 to 5 characters of level 7 or 8. And here we go. Book cover. We created this. Let's do X-Twitter platform at Phil Kearney. And here's my channel. Like, subscribe, bell icon, notifications. We have 279 episodes now. Here's the full list. We made this book cover back around episode 40. So you can check that out. Between episode 1 and current, we've done 5 maps of 55 inches or anywhere from 50 to 75 inch blocks. We've got about 60 tokens for monsters and NPCs, and a bunch of little incidental vignette little illustrations that we've been accumulating over the time. So enough ado, let's I will show you the completed gazebo map after I dropped in the hazard tokens that I threatened I would do. So here's the final piece. So we have the 20 by 20 square area that it actually sits inside of. Here is the dilapidated gazebo, the 3 water hazards that were included within the area. Here is all of the ferric ivy, which is damaging if you cross through that area. The Vulpina Lotharia that is surrounding the terrain around it. If you step into any of the squares containing Lotharia, it causes you to saving throw or get sickened and lose your action. Out here are just some yellow cat or emerald cat mushrooms, just for the lulz. And then we have some moss and some florets that are growing on the gazebo. So a fun little map. It's got 3 water hazards which can be used to spawn undead. There could be Mabar and Red Wolf mercenary soldiers, for instance, could be making some sort of a last stand here against undead that are coming at them from the mists as well as rising from the waters. Or the team could be chasing a bar guest, and it decides to go through this area to try to lose the characters and distract them with dead. It's just an optional adventure token, adventure environment, just to fuck around and do undead stuff. So we get the cemetery, the flooded fort, the gatehouse. We've got this gazebo. We're going to have a large undead tree. We're calling the Tree of Woe, and but we want to have connection between some of the locations. So I want to have the cobblestone pathways here. These are 16-inch blocks. There's 4 of them, so it's 64 inches, or just shy of 64 times 5. 300. That's 320 feet. So the space here, I'll show you. The reason why we're building this in the first place is we have region 4, which is the gatehouse. This is the open, the elevator shaft that's now permanently collapsed, and it's just a big open hole. Here's a stairwell that goes down into the ruins, and this is like an elevated surface here. But at one point, this was a fortress, and this was a gatehouse here, and there was a gate here. And inside the facility, they'd create things, and then they use this elevator to bring it up to the surface, and then would roll out. What, you know, undead or whatever it is that they're building down there. So this extension here that we see, this tapered off into a pathway that that connected the gatehouse with the flooded ruins. So let's go take a look at that real quick. Is this the right one? No, this is not the right one. Let's try that again. Oof, this is a big one. There you go. Here's the top side of the flooded ruin. As you can see, it's just basically skeleton walls at this point, and a large sinkhole has opened up in the middle of it. Over here, there's a ladder that leads down into this lowered spot of elevation, which is over here. And there is a bay door, a 20-foot bay door that should be able to lift up, but is blocked by a bunch of garbage, so you have to get all that stuff out of the way. But once you get the door open, it leads down into this tunnel that declines. This is the rate of incline, the degree of incline, and as it continues forward through the tunnel, it eventually floods because it's raining all the time. And there's water coming in through the top side here, through the crack in the door. The bay door is like locked in. You can crawl through, like a small-sized creature can crawl through without having to clear any debris. But there's undead in here. So this is an oil-slicked pool of water that's accumulating. It gets to be about 20 feet deep here at the bottom. Here's bay doors that lift up to allow direct access to the facility, and here are points of corrosion in the stonework underwater that the water is seeping into. Over here it's a dead end, but it will eventually breach the fortress over on the this is on the barracks side, and over here it has breached through the walls, and it's caused the flooding that we have in area 12 and 13 of the underground facility. But there's about from this edge here to this edge here is 640 feet. So we have the dilapidated these mud-covered cobblestone pathways that, when we give them the same treatment as that other stuff has, it'll have the same. It'll basically create a literal line from the flooded fort to the gatehouse. So when the team is going through the area, the DM can have them run into the pathway, and it goes left or right. Which way do you want to go? And depending on which direction the team chooses, the DM can drop that dungeon, that location at that spot, or can just choose which one he wanted, and it gets dropped in there. But it's an equidistant triangle, so it's 640 feet from the gatehouse to the flooded fort, and it's also 640 feet from the flooded fort to the cemetery, and it's 340 feet from the cemetery, or 640 feet from the cemetery to the gatehouse. So it just creates a little triangle, and you can just literally lead the team from one dungeon location to the next by including a cobblestone pathway or not. So like there's no by default there's no cobblestone pathway that connects the cemetery to the gatehouse. But if you specifically wanted to lead the team from the cemetery to the gatehouse, you would drop a cobblestone pathway to literally lead them there. So the way that the adventure is structured is cemetery leads to flooded fort leads to gatehouse. And at any one of those points, the team can find a way down into the facility, the secret passages in the cemetery, the garage door, the bay door. If I closed it already, but it was flooded, and there's a gatehouse on top of it. I'll open that up real quick. Hold on. We're just going on a quick tour here. So here's a color version of, well, this one isn't the high furnished one. It's good enough for now though. So here's the passageways. You can see that these aren't colored, and this is an older sample shot. But the water is in here, and you can see that there's this grating and this block door. This here is the same as here. This is an upstairs gatehouse, and this is murder holes that you can look down, dump oil through, or shoot people, or lob spells through. But it's covered over with basically a thick metal trap door to prevent people from being able to access it. But it's warped over time. And if you had like a druid or something that could take on a tiny or a gaseous form, you can slide through there and get access to the gatehouse as a whole. You could potentially open this door, but it requires tinkering tools and repair work or mending spells to be able to fix the machinery that's broken. But if you decided to, you could flood this front area with water, and if you leave any of these doors open, the water would flow through to whichever chambers it is that you have access to. So the cemetery leads underground tunnel leads to this location here. The flooded fort, obviously we just demonstrated, comes through here, and then here is the felled, broken elevator platform. And this is the stairs that lead up and wrap around. It actually makes a full rotation. It's 120 feet deep, so it's one loop, two loops, and then up to the top. So, yep, there you go. So this appears 3 times. Once here, once inside the internal tunnel of the map that just keeps spiraling. And then the top side entrance. This is that giant orifice, the black hole into the ground, and the top of the stairway with the doorway that led into the stairs going underground. This is the connection point, and then there's a full circle of stairway inside of the 120 feet. So anyway, so those are the 3 maps. So right now, the reason we're doing all that is, the reason we're doing this currently is so that we can build literal pathways to lead the characters from one area to another, if the DM wants to unironically railroad them from one point of the adventure to the other. Because the thick smoke in the Mabar area, the miasmic, misty clouds that obscure vision, you can't just look, hey, there's a cemetery half a mile over there or whatever, you know. It's only like it's like around 700 feet. It's not that far, but when you can only see in 40-foot chunks, that's basically proceed that direction for 10 visual lengths and have undead coming at you while it's happening. It's like, I don't know about this. But so the full structure, the full facility can fit within 1 mile. And the mists of Mabar can go out to up to 5 miles if the DM wants to add more time for them traveling through the mist and fighting undead and stuff. But it wants to be at least 1 mile minimum, so that it can completely obscure this facility that's been set up. So, having said all of that, we're zooming in and looking at. We just gotta do some cleanup right now. So we're doing some cleanup. Anyway, that's what we got going on. So we're doing the cobblestone pathways here now. And then off of the pathways is the Tree of Woe. And, excuse me. This should be a 3. Perfect. I think the first thing I need to do is clean up stray lines. This is pretty sloppily created, so it might be faster for me to just clean it up than to redraw it. So I'm just going to spend some time futzing on this. Rel, you asked a question yesterday. Oh yeah, that's what it was. It was as gaming culture has changed, what do I like the most about what's coming into effect, and what do I like the least? Well, from a cultural stance, what I like the least is that people feel like they need to take shots at each other for having differences in opinions and preferences. It feels petty and selfishly driven and trying, like, nerd culture used to have to protect its own, and now that nerd culture is mainstream, it's the everyone out for themselves yuppie approach to reality is seeped its way into the gaming community, and a lot of fingers getting pointed at people for doing things right or wrong on both sides of the aisle, and it's just a shame. It's people thinking that they need to stake their claim and speak their truth, which is usually insulting somebody, so that they don't feel threatened about what they prefer reality to be to remain intact for however long they can sustain that force. And, my typical message of unity, in that if people weren't scared of what was going to happen in their life, they wouldn't be so angry at people doing it differently. Most people are afraid that they're living their life wrong, and when they see somebody else living life different from themselves, they get hostile towards it because it makes them question if the way that they live their life is safe and right. And like, why are these people doing things this way? If that feels so much more hostile or dangerous, it doesn't make me feel safe to live X. Insert anything. Having a 9-to-5 job. Having attitudes towards people that don't look or act like you. Whatever. Different economic statuses. So it's just division. We want to divide because we want to categorize. We want to be able to say we're doing better or worse than something else, and it just depends on what's your battlefield, right? Is it social? Is it social causes? Is it economic status? Is it being a lore expert on a particular nerd subject matter that keeps shifting over time, so you have to keep rebooting what you know, and it destabilizes the value of the things that you've known and accumulated as knowledge over time. Like, these are all things that, if you're coming in new and you're young and you don't know the history of stuff, you want to insert that you have value and you want to carve out your own niche. That's building your own legacy, and it's important. And meanwhile, the people that have the established way how things they don't want those ways disrupted. This is really basic shit. Like, just super basic. I'm just making it very, very simple, very, very basic. I don't think I'm dropping any particular science here on anyone, but just providing the context, mostly, more than anything. So that's what I like the least about what's happened to gaming over the past 50 years. Although I was only a participant for 37, it would have been it would have been even more of the same of what I experienced when I was growing up, which was difficult to find a group, and having to do, like, it took me a solid year before I got anybody to actually play D&D with me. And once I did, it was just constantly. It just took, I guess, a year of buffering in my reality, and then boom, this is your thing. So it took off in high school for me. So very, very happy with that. I'm gonna get rid of this. Finding people that played D&D back in the 80s and 90s was super easy. All you had to do was go to school, and anybody that was reading a book during lunchtime, like voluntarily reading during lunch, game rules. Or an adventure, obvious. So you just plump on over, and it's like, what you playing? And they immediately know that you understand what role-playing games are, and they just immediately excited. That's how I met my friend Kyle. He was having a conversation about Gamma World, and I overheard him, so I plopped myself down, introduced myself, and I'm like, okay, tell me more about Gamma World. And he's like, oh, and then he had 3 brothers. So no, he had 2 brothers and a sister, sorry, and there was a neighbor, so it felt like 3 brothers, but it was 2 brothers and a neighbor, and he and I were the oldest, and then 3 goofballs. I love that family. That was my home away from home in high school. And then Kyle would go to my house and do weekend stayovers because he would have to just get the hell away from his family. He's like, too much. 4 siblings and a PTSD dad. It was hairy for him, that's for sure. So he's like, I got to get out of here. So we'd stay over at my place, and my room was the basement. We had a finished basement, and basically the entire basement was mine. And I grew up in white suburbia of Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, back in the days. But this is looking good. I like this. It'll take a little while for us to do all the cleanup to the point where I like it. And there's 4 of these, so obviously it's going to be a little bit meticulous timing. But this is what I mean about the difference between planning and calculating versus artwork. Like, I don't have to think to do this stuff. I'm just pushing pixels. The hand knows what to do. I don't have to think about it. I just provide the request, and the artwork executes the function, and then in the end we end up with, whatever. But so what do I like the most about role-playing games? I would say it's the 50 years of learning what works and doesn't work, and having better and better game systems coming out, and more niche game systems. Like, you aren't stuck with Star Frontiers if you want to do space stuff, right? There's like literally hundreds of space themed role-playing games and supplements that are available out there. Like, just the vastness of conceptual, just the sheer weight of data, information, stories, ideas, the archive. Thank you. The vastness of the archive of role-playing game information. Like, here's how to structure a fake reality. Like, that's going to be valuable to our AI overlords in the future, and people that were into game design might actually be spared the pithing. Like, I couldn't be as confident as a DM as I am if I hadn't had access to dozens of different game systems, and like took time to learn like 5 of them. So so I get a smattering of ideas of different types of resolution systems, dice resolution or otherwise, inside of various games that can be pulled from and used as inspiration to approach to tackle mechanical problems inside of a game. Like spell points in the color mana system that I have. I've been exposed to various spell point systems over the past 30 whatever years, and so it was really easy for me just to connect the dots between spell points and mana pools from Magic the Gathering. Super easy when you see it, but like having the idea, like inventing an idea, that's providence. It just happens, and it's just a matter of, is that something that you're excited to follow up on, or was that a neat idea and you let it go and then it just disappears from reality altogether. So I'm getting better at when I have ideas to be able to latch onto and expand on them, and I'm really happy about that. I've got a thing I'm brewing up. I'm gonna leave it at that. But there's an Eberron thing that I've been thinking about, and and I had a good a big chunk of information dropped into my head last night when I was going to bed. So there might be some interesting stuff involving this adventure and other adventures that I write with Eberron in the future. So I'm going to leave that mysterious for now. Let's see. All this stuff seems to be sitting on the line, except for you, you turd. You lined up. There we go. I do love doing this doodle work, though. It's so much fun. It's so relaxing to just let the art flow. I had to put in excruciating amount of effort. I'm like up to 15,000 hours of doing artwork in general. And the curse of an RPG general artist is that it takes time. It takes time to become specialized in anything. And when you're working 4 or 5 different types of things, it takes even more time. So I'd say general, like cumulative 15,000 hours, but like for different aspects of like cartography, maybe I've got 5,000 hours of cartography under my belt. Like landscapes, I've probably got like maybe 6,000, 7,000 hours of landscape environmental stuff, and then the rest of it's like character and creature and equipment art. So I don't think I'm not a true master in any specific element of illustration that goes into RPG design, but I'm good enough at all of it that I can build my own stuff, right? Which is super useful when you're going for like a coherent look. The real advantage of indie role-playing games is that they can have, like, I call it this couture design, where, like I was saying, the thing that I love so much about RPG development over time is that hyper specialization and your ability to have both art and visual references and tone of the product all work together to create an experience or an idea or like a mood for your games. And I love that, and I feel blessed that I had taken so much time to develop my art, my ability to illustrate, because for the past 34 years up to a couple of years ago, it was like this is how you create fantasy worlds. Yeah, it became 3D, it became like 3D environmental stuff, but the need for just basic two-dimensional schematics as well as basic maps and just simple illustrations, that never goes away. And then AI happens and it disrupts the entire state of the industry, which is great. Disruption is good. That is speaking as one of the casualties of the AI art revolution. But to me, it's just I've just been witnessing globalization and reduction in cost and ease of production since the beginning. So I was into art before there were tablets. So I've seen accessibility explode and competition as a result of it explode as well, and that really just got me to a place as an artist to be like, you know, I'm not going to be able to out mass produce anybody. I'm not going to be able to manufacture enough artwork to outpace anybody or to be better than anybody else. My inability to see color means that I'm never really 100% sure that like a company like Wizards would hire me to do magic art, you know, stuff like that. Like I just might not have the level of color mastery that they just instinctively look for and know if you have it or not. Like I don't know what I don't know, right? And I don't know a lot, so that's scary. to be that cognizantly ignorant of your environment, it's scary, but so I've always kind of been having to figure things out for myself, and if there is an audience that I would grow, it would be very, very, very specific to just my jive of doing things, because I do everything just a little bit differently. Everyone does everything just a little bit differently. But it's a matter of like, is that something that you've owned and made a part of who you are, or is it something that you fight against? And I had to make peace with that a long time ago for me to be who I am. There, we'll fill in each one of these potholes with water. Dust them with fungus, and this is a pathway that actually gets used. So there'll be moss and maybe some florets, but there won't be like any Lotharia or ferric ivy on these pathways because they're actually used by the Red Wolf mercenaries to maneuver around inside of this place from location to location while they're doing patrol. Stick to the pathways. What's going to get used. There's what needed, and then you have to go out and to patrol the mists and hunt for undead that can see you, but you can't see them. Oh God, that's terrifying. They've lost a number of troops, and they're getting really, really cagey about being here. There's some deserters. Earlier in the adventure, while you're in the forest, the undead are coming from the manifest zone into the Carnwood, and one of the optional encounters is that you find soldiers in a tree. There's 2 soldiers in a tree, and a third one literally just fell, and by the time the team catches up, has been killed by ghouls, and the ghouls can't seem to quite climb up the tree. So when the characters come upon the scene, there's like 8 undead to kill, and after they do, the soldiers that are stuck in the tree can get down safely now, and in gratitude for helping them, they can lead the team for towards the base, and start a social negotiation with the mercenaries about like why are they there and what are they trying to achieve and what can they do to help them. Again, the default assumption of the adventure is that you're deputized. You have legal authority to ask questions in this environment. And the Red Wolves, once they acknowledge that you're deputies, they're going to lean into your lawful status in the circumstance, because they didn't know what they were going to be getting into. They just took the gig and it turned sideways on them. But they can't quit. If they quit, then they're going to get a really bad reputation as a mercenary, as a mercenary company. So they have to stay on task and defend this place, so they can, because they're all just retired veterans from the last war, and they don't, they're too far gone. They're way too far gone to become farmers. They're gonna die by the sword. So they're doing mercenary work in an unstable economy, and this gig came through for them, so they took it up, and oh great, we're dealing with necromancers, and now there's dead rising, and they want to kill us as much as just some random strangers, so we got to contain this stuff, make sure we stay safe. What's that? You say if this place gets exposed, we could potentially be tried for treason? Shit. I just want this thing to dissolve. What can we do to dissolve this thing? And they can't just walk away, but if sheriffs show up, they're like, oh my god, what a miracle. We have a way out of this. So the mercenaries can disengage and no longer be a threat to the team if they find their way into that kind of a conversation. They can grant asylum, basically. They can pardon the mercenaries because they have the authority to do that. It's like, yeah, you guys aren't part of the problem. We're not after you. But I hear that there's kidnappings happening. What the fuck is going on? The mercenaries are like, yeah, it's gotten bad. Because there's the Emerald Clausiolots that are doing all the illegal stuff. And then there's the Red Wolf mercenaries that are just doing policing, trying to keep people away and fight and keep the undead inside. While the Zealots are going out and kidnapping people and bringing them into the facility through without the Red Wolves being directly involved. So they're like, yeah, this really sucks. We didn't know this is what we were doing. They have clauses in their contract to be able to bail. They could get out of this, but they're necromancers. They're Emerald Clausiolots. They're Blood of Vol. If you betray these people, they are coming after everyone you know. So their entire company would end up getting killed. And they're like, we didn't realize this is the mess that we're getting into, but we don't know how to get out. And having law enforcement backing them up, and then if you want to take control of the place, you can just outright hire them as hirelings and mercenaries to patrol the area that you now take dominion over, and they'll be thankful for the work because that's all they're trying to do is find something stable to do. That they'll get paid well for risks taken, and hunting undead in the Carnwood, they're already good at that. This is a great place for us to settle down and do this gig. So you immediately win camaraderie from these people if you have the opportunity to get into conversation. I like it. I think it's fun. And things that I do in my campaign, I just naturally try to bend you into getting access to a fortress or have your own guild. Like to be able to open up that dominion access so that your characters can expand the scope of their value and importance to the region. So one of the quest rewards for the sheriff hook is you're now in charge of maintaining the peace in this region. Here's a couple additional adventure hook ideas that you could do while you're taking control of that facility, getting like the gatehouse and the flooded fortress back to operational means, and it's yours. It's a government-sanctioned location. It was forgotten on purpose. Now that it's been exposed, it's nice to see that somebody that's been deputized and has legal authority within the nation keeping an eye on it. So you're not even going to be harassed by the crown. They're going to be like, yeah, this is good. This is how we make new heroes in an after-war era. Keep our shit lidded and help keep the peace from destabilized culture. This is perfect. It's like you're just perfectly set up to be able to start doing nobility stuff and getting involved in Karnath politics if you want to do that at higher levels. So it just opens the door for more meaningful campaigns that can lead in any kind of direction. So anyway, ramble. That's what I do. That's how I like to build campaigns. I like to lean into those as the framework for making decisions and the adventures that get set up. Once you have a dominion system in place, it's super easy to be able to generate adventures based on just normal happenstance stuff that you would have to deal with on a daily basis. You can basically gamify the bureaucracy of running a facility by creating crises over and over again. Like, this needs to be dealt with, that needs to be dealt with. we need you to go to this foreign location to deal with this thing for the whatever you got to do. Blah blah blah. So you have a variety of at-home activities and away activities. You send out adventuring parties to do the away activity stuff, and you do all the at-home stuff as a downtime session. And like in the Eberron campaign that I run, we run an adventure which will last anywhere from like it looks like things run basically between 4 and 8 hours for any random sortie or any random adventure that they take. They're short and episodic, and they churn through the content. And when they're done with it, we have one adventure every 10 days. In world every 10 days. Basically the world updates, and things happen to guild operations, or new things are discovered, or new alliances are proposed, and so as new random events occur every 10 days, the players decide what they want their characters to engage with, what they want the guild to pass on, and what they want the guild to get involved with. And of the things that they decide they want their guild to get involved with, they decide which of these things do we want to specifically build characters for to go on an adventure to resolve. And they can use the same characters over and over again, but some quests, like their primary team right now is a delving team, because flushing monsters out of asteroids and keeping that environment safe is a decent default adventure for a Dungeons and Dragons game. Like go into a cavern, clear out the monsters, make it safe for the miners, and let's not repeat that task too often, so it doesn't, so it stays fresh and fun to do. So there's monster delving, and then there's the Spelljammer fleet ship combat that the team is currently engaged in, fighting space squids that want to eat miners. They're trying to kill off the squids before they can close distance with the mining company. If they don't tell the mining company there's a threat, the miners will strike, and they'll have to renegotiate their contracts, which becomes an issue that the guild has to resolve. If they fail to kill the monsters and they actually get to the mine and eat miners, then it's just going to be 10 times worse, but the same problem. So they have to kill all the squids before they can close distance, and they have a full day of travel between the miners and where the squids are at currently. So it's likely they're going to be able to take care of it, but they have to actually take care of it to keep that sector of their territory safe. So that's a fightercraft combat mission that they can basically they have a team of fighter pilot Warforged that fly around in transformable Veritech fighting space monsters to protect their mining operation. They got their delving team. They'll eventually need to have a diplomats and envoys to run diplomacy negotiations and terrorist negotiations, whatever. But there'll be a number of adventures that require diplomacy, and we've talked a little bit about the investigation dungeon approach of like visualizing a conversation as a dungeon of different passages that lead to different talking points, and those talking points are rooms, and those rooms can have traps in them, like logic traps that try to destabilize your side of the debate, and there can be attacks that your team endures, which can be translated into some sort of logic monster occupying that room, because the room is the topic and their arguments are either traps or attacks. So there's like a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a metaphor is the word I was looking for. Thank you. So the monsters and the traps are metaphors to the hours of debate that would be super boring to narrate, or to even depict that in, like a court scene, right? Like when the teams are under trial for a crime and they have to convince everyone that they didn't do it. You can convert that into a dungeon crawl, a hypothetical mind space where you and the opposing council are attempting to trap and kill each other's arguments. And instead of making it a battle of wits with ability checks, you can literally build a dungeon that will visualize their arguments for why your character should fail. Whatever. Why you should go to jail or be murdered, or like why you should not. Why you should have to pay more for labor contracts for the mining guild from now on. These are all boring political ideas or economic issues, but if you convert them into a dungeon that has to be navigated and battle, and you'll get attacked in and ambushed throughout while you're in that environment, all you're trying to do is find the truth, quote unquote. The solution, the treasure, is a resolution, or the investigation is discovering a passage that will lead you into potentially like an espionage mission or a military mission, or a new diplomacy mission with different objectives, threats, and opponents. So once we get done with the squid combat mission, I'm going to hopefully get the team to run an espionage or a diplomacy mission, because they also have different objectives. So there's the physical threats, which are dungeon delving with monsters, and then ship combat with space monsters and stuff. And then there's the spirit battles that you have, which is espionage, of trying to infiltrate and access information without being noticed, and then diplomacy, which is trying to overcome opposition in a verbal arena. So these are the ideas that I'm playing with right now, and I get a chance to play test this stuff on a weekly basis with my home table. And as these different modes of adventure get more clearly defined, I'll have an opportunity to open that up to creating little improvised games. Like I could see using this system with like a Wild West setting, obviously fantasy setting and sci-fi it works with. The Dominion style works like you could do like Men in Black stuff. So the base chassis of it doesn't really change much. It's just what's the narrative that dresses up the mechanics that you're going to use. So it really is just kind of a universal role-playing system in a non-GURPS sort of way. It's just like Cypher's a really good basic engine to build different role-playing games and scenarios out of. This system is kind of like a Cypher light system in that same sense. There, what time is it? 7? Oh man, it's only 7:25. That's awesome. We're doing great. It's Friday, which means it's Marshall Power's work lunch. I anticipate being on in probably in about 5 hours from now, which will be noon 30 in Seattle. That's when I should be able to. Somewhere probably between 12:30 and 1 o'clock, I'll jump on, and we'll spend an hour ish working on the monk subclasses. We did the updates to the monk Marshall Power options on Tuesday this week, and so I'm going to have a chance just to come. I know that we have the 4 subclasses that are coming out in the Player's Handbook 24, and we don't know exactly what those are going to look like until we actually have the book. But we're going to go through what we have and verify everything that's in their jives, because we can have 5 like base 5th edition versions of stuff, including in addition to the revised stuff for 2024. I can just tear that stuff out as a separate piece and just put it up on my Patreon, for example. Oops, I need to hit save. My system just locked up, so I have to hit save. And we close this, and now we're going to open it up again. Cobblestone paths. But yeah, once I get all this martial mana stuff done, I'll be able to start creating little example. Like I can take an MTG card, right, a Magic the Gathering card, and then whatever character or monsters on it, I can translate into the color mana mechanics. So the core books are on DMsGuild, where they belong. And then I can start churning out fan content for like Clerics of Thalia, or Bard. Like I could do like a Rakdos Bard. Like there would be no reason for me to make a Rakdos Bard and then try to sell it on DMsGuild. It would never make any money. I have one. No, I have two books. I have one book is a bunch of is 10 different Warlock patrons and subclasses. Based on each guild of Ravnica is a patron, like an otherworldly patron, and then if you become a guild mage, you're actually a warlock. Kind of like how 4th edition handled the Templars and the Sorcerer Kings in the 4th edition Dark Sun. You would basically have a pact with the Dragon King in Dark Sun, and this color mana system in Ravnica, it'd be as a warlock making a pact with your actual guild itself, getting access like an Azorius warlock uses blue and white magic, so it has a mana pool of blue and white. You choose what color is your arcane, your Mystic Arcanum is either going to be blue or white, and you decide. And then the pact magic that you have is blue and white, but you'll only have the Mystic Arcanum that gives access to 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th level spells. That's one color, while your pact magic is another color. So your pact magic mana can't be spent on Mystic Arcanum, but instead of casting, Mystic Arcanum counts as both colors from your guild. Like the mana, the Mystic, the Arcanum points that you get, the mana, the long rest mana to cast the Mystic Arcanum. That's both blue and white for Azorius. But Mystic Arcanum itself is like, say, only blue, while the pact magic is only white. And so all of your pact mana is white to cast the white spells, and your Mystic Arcanum is blue, so your pact mana can't be spent on the blue mana, on the blue spells. But the points that you get to cast the Mystic Arcanum, they count as blue and white. So, but you only get them back on a long rest. So if you don't want to cast any high level spells today, you're going to get a huge resource, basically 2 short rests worth of extra mana that can be spent during a long rest, and still recycle your pact magic. Every time you take a short rest, you still get a stack of key points, like a monk. It's the same general idea. So when you convert to a spell point system, warlocks have a shitload of mana, and they can just throw that stuff around. It's honestly, it's the best. A magic point warlock, I think, is the best magic resource system I've ever seen for Dungeons and Dragons. Period. It is. I love it. I absolutely love it. It is so flexible. Invocations, a mana system that has both long and short rest recovery. Feats, subclass, and then they just converted pacts into invocations. So you get you got your patron subclass, you've got your invocations, you've got short rest magic, and you have long rest magic, and you have feats from the basic system, and you've got your background and your race. So there's a lot of variables that are built into warlocks to make them incredibly flexible. So big fan of that stuff. looks really good. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with all this stuff. It's coming along nicely. But it's just, like I said, it's just cleanup. It's, but once we get, I mean, it goes really quickly. Once we get the line art resolved and we're happy with that, then we'll be able to just basically backdrop, fill in the color, add some grit, and we'll be good to go. Each of these tiles is 5 squares wide, and you know, 16 squares of space. Too far, Kearney. You went too far. You're actually right about here. So yeah, martial powers at lunchtime today. About 5 hours from now, we'll be cleaning up. Basically, since we made revisions to the core class features, we have to go through all of the subclasses. Even though we know the subclasses will change again once we actually have our hands on the 2024 book, we got to build. We got to build with what we know so we can do the things. And so we're going to review all the subclasses to make sure that they still jive. And once they do, I think so. I have a Saturday morning stream that I run for like 2 or 3 hours. And sometimes I have playtesting on Saturday mornings, but when I don't playtest Saturdays, I do artwork. Well, I'll work on whatever project I work on. And so I anticipate being done with the monk on Friday, but I won't be, today, but I won't be. So I'll probably spend maybe an hour or two tomorrow morning just to finish up the monk, and then we'll be open to making our next the next hex for our hex crawl. It's oh good, 7:35. We got 20 minutes. Perfect. But so we're gonna we designed on stream the first hex that we ran through on level 3 and 4, and the team locked that down and secured it as a safe zone. So as they go through the rubble belt, each hex they go through, they're securing as a safe environment so that their back isn't being sniped as they proceed through the environment. And each tile is a 10 by 10 mile block that just proceeds through wasteland nearly infinitely, like for hundreds of miles. So lots of tiles. They could, if you made a campaign out of it, you could drop them in the rubble belt at first level and have them hex crawl their way out. And by the time they get out of there, they're 20th level. They would, of course, be able to escape earlier than that, because their characters will accumulate enough power that they'll be able to go basically anywhere they want in the multiverse by like level 13. So you can't contain them, but if you build up enough storyline and plot going on from level 1 to 13, by the time they're powerful enough to leave, they don't. Because as players, they're too emotionally involved with the environment and what's going on there. And if they want to do anything, they have to keep coming back to the spot. They can't just yeet out on the campaign and go chase the multiverse. Because if you've built your campaign correctly, by 13th level, it's completely enthralling. Like, you got a lot going on, and your characters are making a difference. You're building grudges. You have objectives that you as players want to achieve inside the campaign. So it's just starting at level. I mean, you could start at level 3, as I said. It's sad that they suggest skipping past the first couple levels if you're a veteran player. Like, that just seems odd. But whatever. They're actively encouraging you to skip a portion of the game that you've played, that you've paid to have. Like, this just feels like bad design, but whatever. I like first and second level. I like having first and second level be non-combatant for the character, like to have a pact of no violence during the first 2 levels. By the time you're 3rd level, you've accumulated enough of a grudge against low level NPCs that you like. When weapons come free, it's liberating. You can tear apart the problem that you've been having to deal with cordially until then. Fun. Super fun. I want to trim this in a little bit here. But that's why one shot. That's why high level one shots just don't work. They just become they're just test. They're it's just, any one shot is not building anything. And when you start at the highest level of the game, you're basically theory crafting a character build, and then you're playtesting it for a couple hours, like for 1 or 2 fights, basically, because there's no context. You're just throwing out all the cool mechanics that you have to see how they work. You deal damage to the thing. It's ridiculous, and it's over. And it's not representative of what a high level campaign actually is. Like if you build a campaign from level 1 to 20, like everything that's happening at level 16 through 20 is the direct result of all the decisions that you've made for the first 15th level before you are really powerful enough to make decisions for the campaign as a whole. By the time you get into that 4th tier, you're calling shots, and you're you're calling in favors, and you're resolving debts, and you are concluding conflicts. And if the campaign was built with enough vibrance and plot points, it's like here's the misnomer about the campaign. The common complaint that is held about 4th tier adventures is I can't contain my characters. They're too powerful. I can't stop or challenge them. Here's the thing. It's D&D is a 1 to 20 level campaign is a Jason Statham movie, right? It's a ridiculous premise. The first 3/4 of the movie is about establishing who has the grudge, how bad are they, and what can the characters in the story do? Like, what's their cool stuff? What can they do? And how badly do the villains in the story piss off the main character before the main character pops off? All of this is the first 15 levels of your campaign, like first 16 levels of your campaign, is establishing who the real threat in the campaign is, what your characters are capable of doing, and how badly can the DM get the NPCs to piss off the players or the characters, take your pick. Both, preferably. So that by the time they get to level 17 through 20, they're resolving all the bullshit that they've had to deal with for 15, 16 levels. And now that they're getting to the last tier game, nothing can stop them. They can just bend reality. How many grudges do you have accumulated from level 1 to 16 that the team can resolve in 4 levels? You don't want to stop the players. You've spent 16 levels pissing them off, crapping on them, and bullying them inside of the world. And now you get to that last quarter of the Jason Statham movie when he is just slaughtering chumps on his way to kill the main boss. He does awesome, cool killing techniques, looking like an action hero, laying waste to people that are way out of their pay grade to be dealing with him. And he just goes through them like butter. Just blasts his way through them. And it's satisfying. Because you've gone on, if it was done well, you've gone on this emotional journey with the hero of getting a hate for whoever it is that's going to end up getting slaughtered. And by the time you get to it, you feel perfectly justified mowing down minions in one hit. And look, we have a mechanic for minions for you to mow down in one hit at high level games when numbers are almost meaningless. It's just the power fantasy of a 1 to 20 campaign curves perfectly into the narrative scaffolding of an action adventure series. Like Harry Potter was 7 movies, right? Like that's like 14 hours of maybe it's 16 hours of storyline that are being laid out. And if each hour of the Harry Potter franchise was a level of adventure, you would know how you could pad out additional encounters during the course of that hour of the movie to justify gaining a level. So you could run the entire Harry Potter movie franchise in 1 hour chunks. 1 hour equals a level, which means in game at the table you're going to expand that out to about 10 hours worth of game time. So every hour of the Harry Potter movies, if you expand it by 10, so make 10 hours worth of game for every hour in a movie, that'll get you from level 1 to 16. And so you just got to find some extra downtime activities and padding stuff to add in a couple, like another 20 hours or so worth of stuff to be able to get to the point where you can be in level 17 to 20. It's not a perfect analogy. I'm on the fly here. I'm talking out of pocket. But that's the general gist of it, right? You can frame your entire campaign around like the premise of a movie, and just if there's enough extra content for you to pad out 250 hours worth of content, then you've got a really viable level 1 to 20 campaign that you can throw down. I would run sessions that are about 3 or 4 hours long, and so 250-ish hours comes from, we'll spend 3 sessions at each level. Level 1 is 1 session, level 1. 2 sessions is level 2. And then once you get the 3rd level and higher, it's 3 sessions a piece for about 10 to 12 hours a piece, which is where I get to the 250 hour mark, because then you got like maybe 15 hours at 20th level to actually close out the campaign and do soliloquies and, you know, epilogues and stuff. Soliloquies. Epilogues, Kearney. They're called epilogues. Yeah. $7:45, so we'll get this one finished. We'll be able to start work on the next one. I think I might just finish when I finish up this piece. I think I'll just be done, and then I'll be back at lunchtime to continue martial powers. Once we get the monk done on Saturday, we'll start building the next 10 miles of hex to challenge the team with. And I don't mind the team, like the player, like if players end up being watching the content of me building the adventure, it's a playtest. I don't care. If you want to build characters that are spec'd specifically to defeat the adventure, all I want is for you to throw mana around and take damage and figure out traps and stuff like that. Just do adventuring stuff using the mana system, so we can see how well it executes fulfilling that fantasy. So I don't care if it could be your favorite adventure that you've ran a dozen times. It's like, it doesn't matter. I'm not running a campaign with spoilers and shit. We're just throwing mana and damage around. So, and just putting it in a fun enough environment to hold our interest for, 15 hours or whatever while we run level 5 and 6. But we'll probably run 2 or 3 sessions at level 5, and then we'll upgrade the characters to level 6 and run 2 or 3 adventures in there. So it'll probably end up being maybe 20 hours worth of playtest over the course of a month or 2. And within that time, the team should be able to overcome the challenges in the current hex, lock that one down, so that we can then make 7th and 8th level characters, create a new hex tile, and then have the team attack that hex next. conquer that hex, and then we'll get to level 9 and 10, and then take on another hex. And at that point, by the time the characters get to level 11, they'll be powerful enough just to leave the area, just to teleport out if they want, basically. And I won't be able to stop them from doing that. So that's a good place to stop that theme for the Robo Belts. But I already tested it at the core mechanics of this at level 16 through 20 with my home table in my last 1 to 20 campaign last year. So I already know the high end is fine. All we've just been doing is just tweaking numbers and action economy at the low end. The high end hasn't really changed at all for the system, and it worked great at the high level, so I don't need to mess with that. This whole time we've just been reverse engineering the feel of 20th level, and to help get the system to be able to provide that feeling for you as fast as we can with the different mana cheat system, the different mana cheats that we've been using. So we only really need to go to level 10 for the playtest to work, and that's probably all the time I'm really going to invest into it. I don't mind there being a gap between 10 and 16. I like playtesting at 20th level first to see like what can be ridiculous, and then reverse engineer it down. So like I was saying, so it keeps that same fun flavor and the variety of options to really feel like I've got choices here, and then to be able to bring that into the low levels as fast as possible. I would say by 5th level, you've really got a lot of variety in action economy and build options. Just in the first 2 ranks of power, with access to all the feats and stuff, you can build a really well realized character in the first 5 levels using the system, and you can stay in 3rd tier play, like cap your campaign at 10th level. I do want to put a cross here. Drop that down a square. There we go. Cool. That piece is done. So okay, great. So we got these 2 things done in this past hour or so. When we come back on Monday, we'll do the same treatment to these 2 expanses here, and then it'll probably maybe we'll start with color on Monday, but definitely on Tuesday we'll start coloring these, and then we'll add in the grit around them, put some moss on it, and then we'll call those done. I suspect by Thursday we'll be working on the Tree of Woe, which will also use an environment like this. And that looks pretty good. So we'll build a tree, and we'll put some water hazards in with it, some graves and stuff, and just make it a nasty little scene for people to fight out through. But that is it for now. So I'm going to go ahead and cut stream. I'm going to be back. It's almost 8 o'clock here in Seattle. I'll be back in probably about 4.5 to 5 hours, somewhere inside of there. I'll be working on the monk subclasses for the martial power system today. And then Saturday, tomorrow when we're on in the morning, we'll continue finishing up the monks, and then start building the next Rebel Belt land tile. So all the creatures and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. That is it for now. I will catch you guys on the other side. Thanks a lot for being here. Later.